Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lonely Wrist. Today, again, for the very first time, but also the second time, the first time that we have a second reoccurring guest, Mr. Mike Pearson, this time with Christopher Ward.
Hi,
What's up,
Blake. Hi,
brother?
Justin. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Welcome on, man. Good to see you.
And you,
we,
yeah. I put the branded T-shirt on for anybody who can't see, just so
I,
just to not confuse anybody about who I'm with now.
I'm in London.
Thank God it doesn't have. Thank God it doesn't have the CHR ward on it, though, right?
Hey, some people still like that. I'm finding out.
I saw
To the
this.
contentious points.
I saw this one. I don't know if it was you that posted it or somebody, but they posted like one of these like general advisors or whatever that had like a Christopher Ward, like an older Trident, where like I looked at the dial from like like I love to like creep on watch people like
Good.
and see what they're wearing, and like I was like that doesn't look like a Christopher Ward, but then when you zoom in, it's just like Christopher Ward like all across the whole dial, and I'm like,
You know what
okay.
I found in the 8 months to 8 and a bit months being with the brand is that 285 different families in 20 years. So that means there's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly, there's some amazing things within there that have gone away that might come back. But everything has been like a stepping stone to the collection I've got today. I've not loved everything I've seen, but it's been loved by somebody, which again goes to the point that that's what the watch industry is all about. You
That's
do.
right.
I think Christopher Ward, in any iteration, has always had a really great intention to build great watches for the money, but you can also see little moments in time, and that I think that logo is captured brilliantly there. So
I love that you speak so highly about them, by the way, Mike. Like even if we talk to you outside of your normal work stuff, like we, meet you at a bar or something, you're so passionate about what you do, about supporting the brand. And I think that speaks very highly of Christopher Ward as well.
Well, I've said this before, especially at the wind-up shows when you see people that have seen me behind the Christopher Ward booth, and they've done that double take where the Zodiac one is as well. Because it was only 2 years with Zodiac, and I say with all honesty and all love, said I'd be there now for the next 30 years if I felt like this chance at Christopher Ward wasn't as big or as special as what it is. And
Yeah.
I say this again without any kind of cheesiness or cheesy lines that come out, but I only joined because I saw how they spoke to the community at those types of shows. So they speak very much like how I hope I do as well. So yeah, I'm here for the right reasons. So it feels good, and there's no BS in my side here.
I was gonna ask you like what fueled the transition, but you really just kind of answered that question.
Well, there was a lot of asking. I mean, I just moved back to America, and if I'm honest with you, so Mike and I hadn't just said hi. Like we had a few different kind of like nods over. He knew what I did with Bremont for all the years, and I respected the heck out of who he was, but I didn't know him. I didn't know Peter Ellis, and I'd never known about Christopher Ward really, because you have those British brand blinkers on. And
Yeah.
we talked. I kind of fell out of love with watches for a couple of years, and it was Zodiac that sparked that love back. And I was on a massive mission to make that brand a little bit more respected and maybe part of the mainstream conversation with, within that price point, but also doing things a bit different. And Zodiac has a story unlike most of the brands out there. But it was the conversations with people that were the periphery around Mike who knew of me. So I'd go to a show and I'd meet Olivia, who heads their events, or I'd talk to a guy called Peter who heads their bespoke stuff, but he's a big soccer fan. So I ended up meeting him whilst in England, not living, just visiting, for my soccer team who was playing against his soccer team. And we had a little wrist shot of Zodiac and Christopher Ward. But it was also, you'd be great. You should really, really talk to Mike and let him tell you what the plans are. And it really had to be a chat with Mike, just to kind of understand, I think, the man and the men and the people and the ladies behind it. But Mike's the face of the brand. So weirdly, I was in a wind up, and this was nothing to do with the job in terms of an interview or any kind of. There was no ulterior motive, but I like going to the gym in the morning. That's how I get too much of my energy out. Otherwise, I'm even more of a nightmare than I am. But
Thank God.
I got to the gym in New York City. This is last year, and for some reason it was closed for 1 hour extra. They were cleaning it, and it was horrible rain. New York City, October, like proper rain falling from the sky. So I just got on my phone, and my soccer team weren't playing, but I always know that no matter where you are in the world, at 6 to 8 in the morning, there's always a soccer game on, and in a city, there's a pub. So I found the local soccer pub, ran to it, and it was an Everton pub. And there was 200 people in Everton jerseys, which is a beautiful blue. And I was wearing an Aston Villa, which is claret, training top. So I walked in looking like a drowned puppy in the wrong colours. And all these blue people had that kind of click. What are you doing in here? Like a Wild West shoot, that kind of moment. And in the middle, on his own, was Mike France. And he saw me and he just opened the chair up and said, come sit down. We did not talk about watches. We talked about football and we watched the game. I tried to dry myself off as much as I could. And at halftime, we just had a little poking of each other to the point of who you are, what you like, how do you work. And I was in. I just thought, let's explore it more, just because they'd asked for so long. But it was more of not leaving Zodiac because I didn't want to go, or not joining Christopher Ward because I didn't believe in it. I just had to, this was a quick transition. And for my head and my heart and my morals, it had to be the right thing. And that moment really was it. So it's all about the people, isn't it?
I guess from an external perspective, coming from Vermont, going to Zodiac, and then now back to another British brand. I don't know. To me, I guess in the weirdest way, it seemed like you kind of went home.
I've had that a lot. And the weird thing is, Bremont, and all my time with Bremont was always kind of flying that British flag because it was bringing watchmaking home. That was the eventual goal from Nick and Giles. And I took their story on as mine. I was their storyteller here in the US. I opened the stores and the watches were, I think, especially when we first started, were different. We're very innovative. And the MB story, the dive watches were excellent. So my thing was not about flying the flag in terms of that's why you should have us. It was like, well, let me put these watches next to your watch and I'll show you how we can be part of your store. The different thing with Bremont is I think maybe, and this is me probably just saying this now after what you just said, is I was with Bremont for so long that no matter what I did for those 4 or 5 years in between, I was always known as the gent who grew Bremont in North America. That was my cross to bear, but also the wonderful thing that I was proud of. I think going now to Christopher Ward is, and especially going back to that logo conversation, the English flag and the Swiss flag, they're not British centric. They're not trying to say that. They very much know that they're designed in England, which is one of 4 countries in Great Britain. But then they know they're made in Switzerland. They lean on that heritage. They lean on that expertise. So the design, the feeling, the Englishness of Mike and Peter, and obviously originally Chris as well, is within the brand. But that's evolved. What they've done, especially since Belcanto, is say, right, we're made in Switzerland. We need to make more, and we need the quality to go higher, better, more innovative. And that's what that logo stands for. So it's very different. And even, I think in my early events this year, I brought a little flag just to add color to my table. But I didn't have a Swiss flag as well. And it was just a nice, quiet conversation between, and if Jorg Jr. saying, where's your Swiss flag? I said, well, send me one. And then you put it on, it was too much. So then I speak to Mike and he's like, maybe you don't need it. And so I've taken it away. And it's true. It's not about waving any flags. It's just because I think the accent, especially here, it kind of goes, right, we know where you're from now. This is not a Texas accent you've got right now, Mike.
Yeah.
But
weirdest Texas accent I've ever heard.
It's very, very southern Texas. No one's heard this one. But in terms of like the flag waving, that's gone. And also, I think there's no history that's trying to say in 1714 there was an old guy in an attic doing this. It's about 3 guys, now 2, that lead the way of doing the best watches for the least amount of money and the highest capabilities of quality, sold in a different way. So what I've tried to add in this first almost year is tactility, because you guys know the brand, because you get either sent them or you go to some of the watch meets in some of the areas. But what I found is, I think about 95% of people who come, and I say it's a very high statistic, 95% of people know Christopher Ward or know something of it. But I would say about 80% of every attendee that comes to an event has never held one. So it's all preconceived ideas that you'd find on Reddit or WatchCrunch or Facebook or Instagram. So I'm trying to give that humanity side to it. And I think that's where the Bremont experience all the way through Zodiac to today has kind of led to why this year's been so much fun.
Yeah, and you've definitely got your job laid out for you, because I mean, you guys are only online retailers. I'm assuming you're not physical locations.
Nope.
So you are essentially the cheerleader for the brand. You're going around, you're putting these watches, in hands. You're showing people, the quality of your watches, and you know, you're telling them the truth. I think that's a beautiful thing of Christopher Ward, is that you guys are just so brutally honest with your manufacturing process, your cost process, you know, who you are, where you're from. And I think that speaks a lot. And of course, having you head the way, I'm sure that helps the company quite a bit too.
I like the cheerleader tag. I'm keeping it. I'm bringing but
I say that in the most respectful way.
No, I know. Do you know, I've kind of called myself, like, especially this year, Taylor Swift going all over the world. I've kind of done the Eras tour, but this is my Christopher Ward era, and I'm on it. But I mean, the job itself is so it's so full facing and forward facing. But what it also is from someone like Mike and Peter, the owners, is very trusting as well. This is their brand. We've had gentlemen in the past who look after our forum. Yeah, they've had a presence here, but they've never gone away from the wind-ups, shall we say, or the big city of New York, that area, Chicago, and San Francisco. They've done bits in terms of conversations around, but the brand has bled into the psyche of the watch community through online only. So when I was speaking to Mike, when I officially joined, the plan was, what do you want to do? Because what I would do with any other brand is go to the retailer network that I trust, and then you open them, and they become the cheerleaders, the champions. They tell your story, they lay out your watches. And Christopher Ward, I mean, we did a watch last week. We got this new GMT 300, which is great. Yep. We've got another launch that'll be like a color edition tomorrow. We're doing this the first week of August, and then at the end of August, there's a big launch coming again, and that's always happening with Chris Ford. There's always something else, a new story to tell, an evolution of a story or a model, and in some cases some brand new ones, which is exciting. When you do that traditionally, you put that watch in a showcase and people run to the store, pick it up, decide to buy it, swipe the credit card, away you go. Here, it's got to be a level of trust through podcasts, through Instagram posts and different forums. But now I think I just signed up today, my 40th event of the year I'll do by the end of 2024. Wow. That's not including what I'll do in the showroom. But that does include like wind-ups and stuff. But individually, I go to Red Bars or Red Bar-like style groups. And that's been the magic. Because when I said I want to go bring tactility to the community, it meant give me a company credit card. I'm jumping in economy and staying in awful hotels. I'm going old school with a bag of watches under my arm. Let's buy everybody a round of beers and tell the story properly. Because the transparency of the story to the pricing is very well known. But still over in America, Americans do not understand duties. And I say that respectfully because we've all had that knock on the door from FedEx, UPS or DHL saying, you now owe us $100 extra, even though you've already paid your duties. So what I'm telling them is everything's duties paid at the point of exit of your online transaction. Right. If you get anything from DHL, give us a shout. It shouldn't happen, and we'll make sure that it's gone away. Just to tell somebody face to face like that gives it so much more gravitas to a very, very nicely emailed or written word on the website, because sometimes we just don't read that. But to know somebody, me in this case in point, means we've got you. It's a huge thing for the US. We ship for free. If you don't like it, you got 60 days to send it back if you don't wear it. If the watch breaks, you've got 5 years on the warranty. Sometimes you don't read that small print. But the biggest thing is, I know that guy. He bought me a beer. I like him. He can stay, and we trust the watches. So sometimes it's broken down to a granular level. But I think we all people by people. So I just try to get that this first year.
How would you say that being like a British brand influences the direction of the company, at least here in the United States?
I only know from my experience that the first thing I'll always go through in any life, any part of my life, be it watch world or professional, is always the accent comes up. So, have you met the Queen? What part of London are you from? I support Manchester United. Yeah, exactly. So the stereotype. Have you seen Ted Lasso? Yeah, those you get the stereotyped conversations, which I'm fine with. You know, and in many ways, the reason why I'm with my wife is because she said, I don't care how you sound as long as you say the right words. Like, she was bang on, and I loved that. The thing, though, I think with having this accent, I think this mentality of my Englishness, humor, I think maybe a bit of a dryness, but also I've been an American since 2006. I've worked with Americans since the early 2000s, and we are different animals, but I've been here long enough to understand that we actually have more in common than we know. But we don't sell the same way. We don't position conversations in the right way, or we do it differently. and customer service is always the forefront of any American's mind, as it should be, and probably is with a lot of people. But Americans are less forgiving because they're used to a different level of quality of service, and I try and bridge that gap. But no, I don't think it's about where I'm from. I think it's about the fact that I live here now and I've adapted without changing myself to how I work. Is that fair?
Yeah. I was mostly kind of angling at Christopher Ward, the brand.
I think we're in a different world now. I think if you looked at back in the day with Bramon when I started, it was very different. Everything had to be Swiss made. But the entry of Nomos and Glashütte and the German brands, and also you look at the alliance of British watchmaking with the power of Fears and Farah and Vertex and some of the unique ones such as Schofield or Pinion. And then you've got the greatness and the sins of stories like George Daniels that went to Roger Smith. There is now a lot more of an appetite for it. It doesn't have to be Swiss. It just has to be bloody good. So as long as you can justify that, I think Americans love that. There's obviously a lot of Anglophiles here. So we talk about soccer and things that are important to the brand back in the UK, but they now translate in America very differently than maybe they would have done 15, 20 years ago. But that's a good thing. But I don't think that the Englishness matters, especially now that we've got that kind of cleanliness with the story of the English to the Swiss side of it. The logo was, and I think still is, a big part of our past, and people love it. But some guys and girls just didn't like to have the name Christopher on the dial. It didn't mean anything to them. And some guys and girls just didn't think it was symmetrical. And if it was missing some of the nuance. This logo, it's clean. It's all about the watch. Some of our models, such as Belcanto, doesn't even have the logo on it. But this one just keeps it symmetrical and easy. So any contentious conversation's gone, and we can very easily and quickly talk about who we are and where we're built.
One of my Go ahead. One of my friends owns the moon phase with the aventurine dial.
Yep. Well done, your friend.
And he keeps calling it Christian Ward. And I'm like, dude, you own one of these watches. But literally
he's thinking Dior.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna wear that Christian Ward today. And
he paid the money. You can call it what he likes. We're happy with him.
yeah. He likes it, and it's a cool, beautiful watch. Like,
oh, that dial's super. I mean, I don't pretend to be flash in any way, but I'll wear that. I think that's just awesome. So
it's so good.
They're beautiful, man.
It's one of my favorites.
I was gonna say, I remember watching the show Mark and them from the Watch Society had you on, and I was in agreement with Mark about the one thing that always kind of kept me from Christopher Ward was the logo.
Oh,
not
yeah,
to beat a dead horse, but it was. I was like, man, I feel like it's either unbalanced or there's something off with it. As soon as you guys rebranded into the two flags, I was like, bro, that's it. Like in game, they're making some of the best watches. Yeah, I was like, best watches for the money. They've now got their logo, kind of on that trend. And I think I remember you guys discussing something about y'all's sales went up like 50% or something like that.
It was a good chunk of change. It just, again, there was those people that hold back because of the information they don't know. But I mean, when we do a wind up, when we do an event, when I do a get together, we have a little tracker. So it's like I leave a little stink bomb and then they can see where it's kind of let off. Like the Michael Pearson tracker kind of shows that people have seen it, trusted it, and go. But that was immediate with that logo. That was definitely. But that's, like I said, I think I said it to Mark. That logo's been in the collection for a while, but it was case back or it was on the crown. It was never the dial because we were still baby brand. We didn't want anyone from Switzerland to come in and take us down financially, so legally, but because we can definitely do it, and it's our logo now. It's on, and we move forward.
That's right. So I'm curious, Mike. Kind of switch gears on us. Can you kind of walk us through, maybe like the craftsmanship process of Christopher Ward watches? I know you guys make, bang for your buck, amazing watches. Just give us a little insight into how that process works.
Sure, and I'll preface it by saying that I've only seen behind the curtain the once, and I've been to the UK side of things just a couple of times. But I get to speak to the genius that I know, which is Jorg Bader Jr., quite a lot, and Will Brackfield in the UK, and Adrian. I would say that the beauty of Mike France, and I'll say this if he was here or he wasn't, because it sounds a bit weird, but I would say it. The beauty is it's not about him. He knows that there's really talented young designers. behind the brand. And so we've had some incredible moments in our past. We getting SH21, getting York on board. But in terms of what we are now, the young design team are seeing what was, and I'll take this to a level that I'm seeing right now. For example, this new GMT Pro 300, just taking what was and slimming it down, adding that light catcher case, making the bezel thinner. They are very much aware of where we came from, but also they know what we are now and also how to make it better. We've listened to our community. For example, our old Tridents at 42 millimeters, they were like a hockey puck. So we slimmed them down. They didn't need to go to 600 meters. We went to 3, but that meant we could open the case back.
Right.
So the secret sauce of knowing who and how to make our everyday watches with the case, the bezels, the slimness, the thinness, the lugs, that for me has shown that the design team and the conversations from England into Switzerland are very mature and very much forward thinking. When you look into things like the Moon Phase, the Moon Glow, and the Bel Canto, which is Sellita based with our own bit of magic on top, and doing it for $2,300 for the Moon and just over $4,000 for Bel Canto, those kind of things there, for me, show that we're not standing on our laurels. Sometimes it's happenstance. It could be, a good happy accident. That Bel Canto's case, there was a jump hour from Sellita that one designer called Frankie's wife said it'd be great if it made a noise when it flicked over, and that's how the Bel Canto idea kind of came to fruition. And that's when his genius kicked into gear. Where if we put all of this on top of the platine, these over 60 parts, we get a chance to not only hear the sound but see it move as well. And that's kind of why the Bel Canto is magic. What I will say is that we are now looking, instead of being, I think we were very reactive. What I saw from the outside, we'd see a design or a style, and there'd be a lot of things that we would kind of jump into that with dial colors, style, or materials or shapes. We are now leading before seeing and then moving on to an ideal. So what I'm looking at when I go to Switzerland is the plans for 3 to 5 years' time. The ambition to have more Bel Canto moments. I said this before. I don't know if we could ever have a moment that changed and shifted the brand as big as it did that quickly. But I think that because we can do it, every time we move forward, it's going to be a movement that will evolve the brand, not just on that top level of atelier watchmaking, but it will push the traditional core watches to be better as well. So my long-winded answer for that is it's very, very much attaching rocket boosters to what was before, and trusting the people again in Switzerland to do the right thing. Mike and Peter will always have a look at it and have that say of how they want it to look, or can we do this? That's Mike's genius within his head of how he can make a watch look a bit more nuanced for him and for us. But very much so, it's trusted within with Adrian, Will, and York, and the team with them. It's brilliant to see. Actually, quite humbling as well. Actually, when you see what they went through, Christopher Ward with Bel Canto, and where they want to be in the next 5-10 years.
And it's crazy because that was such a bold kind of move for, I would consider you guys more on the conservative side.
Right.
Like your core collection is really tight. You don't stray out from your design language really. And then the Bel Canto.
Oh man. And I saw that from that wind up. You could see that Mike was teasing something big from some of the interviews he did with Zach at Worn and Wound. But when it dropped, the story that I've seen, the legend of it was they announced the blue and it sold out within a couple of hours. That was 300 pieces, and they thought that would take a year. They thought those 300 pieces at $4,000, that's not the price point that Christopher Ward would ever be in. Obviously, they did a few bits with the FH21, but that was a different level of complication for a watch that they were not sure would hit the note for the community.
Boy, were they surprised.
Ball. And then the next day they announced the green, and that was a very, very early prototype drawing that had a brass dial, and they sold that within 15 minutes. So they had 2 years worth of stock before making any watches, and they had to not only keep up with the demand of what they were doing in the core world, but what we found, and I think this is why I'm so impressed with the team in Switzerland and also what they're doing in the UK, because it's not about designing a watch and selling it. It's also then backing it up. So those 2 years worth of watches were then followed up with the 4 core pieces that we announced: the black, the purple, the light blue, and the rosa. So at one point there was a 16-month wait list for that, but they would not bend, they would not break. All they kept saying to our suppliers in Switzerland was, be better, be stronger. to the people that were working with Gerard Genta, or sorry, who is that? Audemars were in there, Hermes, all the different, the big houses that were around us that were polishing or making certain parts with us. Like, trust us, this is long term. So we've got more of, headcount is a big thing, and we've got more headcount than we ever had before. We've got incredible partners that trust the process more than ever before. So we've got to the point where by the end of this year, we will have caught up with all of our back orders. And if you order a Christopher Ward Bel Canto today, it's a 4 or 5 month wait as opposed to close to a year and a half. That will then go away. And so what we've got there is, this is again for myself, we've got the infrastructure right, but on the other side, we are then on people's radars who would be MBNF fans, F. Pigeon. This is crazy to say, proper complications. And they look at our $4,000 watch and go, actually, that could be in my collection. And this is coming from the Middle East, big players in America, Europe, Singapore, Hong Kong. And so that watch then started to create a different energy. Went, well, if they can do this, let's look at the rest of the collection. And then you saw Tridents and Sealanders growing. So we have to build more of them, again, with the same quality, if not better. And then in the craziest way, they launched the 12 collection, which was like pouring gasoline on the fire, because that hit a nerve. For $1,200 to $1,800 steel or titanium, that thing just flew. And that's our best selling family by a long way. So
yeah, that definitely has like the DNA of like a do everything type watch, which is why I personally love the 12, and I'm sure many other people do. Yeah, I think that you guys definitely struck a good chord with that. And I agree. I think that the Bel Canto definitely kind of like, shined a big light on you guys of, hey, like, what can you do, in that luxury watch realm? And then just to be backed up by the 12.
Oh yeah. When I started with Christopher Ward, it was just as the GPHG was being announced. And Mike texted me, because I told him before, I said, you're going to win, And he goes, no, there's no chance. Look who we're against. And he texted me, he goes, we only went and bloody won. And I could hear from here in Texas, the cracks of the necks of people turning towards our table, like, who the heck are those guys? And I know they had a great night that night. But to see that GPHG in Switzerland and then bring it to San Francisco and see people who have bought, waited for that watch, it meant so much. And then just so many people with 12 behind it, because they knew that they could get that watch. And, to your point, Blake, is that we don't really go away from what we do. We can be conservative. And then last month we announced the ice cream collection in a new size, and that sold through in a mango color just recently, I think a few days ago. So there's an appetite for color and to be a bit more bolder. So you'll see more of that. But the Bel Canto, I think, kind of unleashed us a little bit more.
I've noticed wherever you go, you typically have watches that typically trend to be colorful and fun.
Yes, I might have added a few more of my opinions into Christopher Ward. There's a guy called James Hillard, and he's great. And he goes, "Oh, we know what you like, Mike," because he did the conversation. They know an orange should be coming in soon, and I've got my reasons. But yeah, they know what I like. But at the end of the day, this role is very different to what I'd had before. This is very much make sure that North America grows. They'll listen to my opinion, but it's definitely not mine. That's all them back in the UK and in Switzerland, which is great. But I'll shout that we need X, Y, and Z, and hopefully they listen to a few.
Something like jumping back to the 12, like something that was really kind of standoutish to me is like the 12 came out when like people were getting burned out from the integrated bracelet sports watches, right? Like the PRX had came out and it played it out. People were like, oh, it's just another integrated bracelet sports watch.
Oh, I didn't feel, I felt like it was.
I felt like that.
I felt like it was us, Tissot, and even when you look at Chapek, that was like with fashion and cars, sometimes things just happen quite similarly in a similar amount of time. And so a lot of people thought it was being part of that trend. We'd been working on that for a couple of years, apparently. But it came out right in the middle of like a couple $100, quite a lot more money. And then we were there at that entry level, but then the quality kind of pushed us up into a different stratosphere. And I think that kind of ignited, this is again, my opinion, so take it as you like. But what I saw was that people just went, wow, finally the watch has been done right.
Exactly.
At a price point that suits it.
That's where I was kind of alluding to, but people were burned out from the integrated bracelet concept. They're like, oh, and then you know, because obviously Zenith had came out with the Defy Skyline, you know,
Yep.
right before you guys, and then oh yeah, you know, and then you guys came out, and people were like, okay, this is a proper integrated bracelet sports watch, like this is done with the likes of the best of them,
Yeah,
you know.
and it's only become stronger. I mean, when I first got my first watch, I asked for the Pro 300 in bronze, which I wear mostly, and then the 12 in titanium, and I never wear titanium watches. But it just happened after Christmas, so they'd ran out of bracelets, and they sent it on the black integrated rubber, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But I felt like a spoiled kid that I didn't get what I wanted, because that watch with that bracelet is a superstar, and no matter where I go, from breweries to high end events, if I wear that watch, it suits whatever I'm wearing. So yeah, bang on, and I'm glad it hit there in the end. And it's proper.
And the price is just incredible. Like,
But it's the right maths. I mean, we know what it costs to build. We just increase that by 3, and that's how we get the price. And I think one of those things, going back to the original points we talked about with duties and stuff, is if we started distributing in America, duties would be added into the price. So a $1,200 watch would be $1,400.
Yeah.
We try and keep it as inexpensive as possible, and the processes are there. But if we went into retail, or we started to market in a different way, that would be added to the price. And so we don't sell in traditional ways. We don't market in traditional ways. And the only way that we can keep the watches they are is by having that same business model. But if you pick up that watch and go $1,295, I'll take one. But it's kind of re-educating what people think $1,200 should feel like, because I don't know if you agree, but in all the years in the watch industry, I still think that $1,200 is a ton of cash. And if I'm going to spend that much money, it shouldn't feel crap. And if for too long, I've been a bit like, well, I don't want to go to that level of watch, because I do expect more if I'm spending that type of money. I've got kids, I've got dogs, I've got a life and a house. And I think Christopher Ward sits within that world of, we're not trying to, we know we lack by not being in retail, and we're not disrespecting retail. But hey, for this amount of money, you get this type of feel. And that's where I think the magic's starting to happen, especially the more I do these events and people hold them.
I think there's also a transparency aspect that you guys deserve like a gold medal for, because like, you know, you could easily go on your website, you say, hey, look, here's how we calculate how much our watch costs.
Right.
You can easily just reverse engineer that and say, okay, this is how much it costs for Chris Reward to make. Right. Like you can easily do that math on a napkin. And nobody in the industry does that.
Well, the tough thing is, and I said this as well, is that because we're not in retail and we don't get those thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of eyeballs, we lack a lot of things. In terms of the notoriety we could get, the sales we should get. But the guy who's behind that showcase deserves getting paid. So where's that money come from? It goes into the watch. The guy guy and girl who's invested at some points hundreds of thousands of dollars in a brand deserves to have that kind of addition within the margin to make some money to put it inside of his store. So we have under no illusion that we are part of a very different thinking or a mindset to how we sell. But the guys and the brands and the people that are doing what they do traditionally, they're doing it the right way, because that bit of money goes into that kind of brand, and it's all encompassing. I mean, we're watching the Olympics now, and you know how much that costs for a certain brand to be part of that, or to see some really cool movie that's got some good gadgets. You know what that costs to be part of that movie, the franchise. But deservedly so, that also puts eyeballs on there. So it has to get paid in some way. All we say, and this is what, my whole mindset has been shifted from going into retail to now doing as I am with Christopher Ward now, is, well, just if you get it, great. If you don't, it's fine. But come and hold it and feel it, and you'll see the quality. So there's so much choice out there. But we're a different level now.
You guys have definitely built a very genuine customer base. And I think that, where you lack in certain areas, advertising, physical store location, things like that. I mean, you guys are building a really good community of people that back you up. And I think that that's one thing about Christopher Ward that I really enjoy, is everyone who is, within your customer base, a part of your team, is very serious about you guys. They will support you through and through. They have taken the time to do the research, as you guys state on your website, and, went through your catalog and has, physically purchased a watch from you guys, whether in hand or not. That in itself is already a big feat. You don't have, as many of those, not to speak negatively on people, but anybody can walk into a store and see something, oh, they like, and they think that's pretty and spend money on it. They have to go through an online interaction to, usually get a hold of y'all's watches. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that speaks volumes. And for everybody listening as well, I mean, if you can ever get a hold of Mike and get him on location and, put him in your hand, do it. They're impressive. But even if you do order one straight from online, I could vouch for them for sure.
Thank you. Well, it's the biggest thing that's got me is that the brands I've been with before, there's a fan base. This is a different level. It's like the way I kind of equate it. You go to you walk down around the mall and you see a 14-year-old wearing a Pink Floyd t-shirt. And you're like, you don't know the songs.
Yeah.
That's not your song. That's not your band. I do the same thing now with Oasis. That's my group from the 90s. I love it.
We're getting old.
Wonderwall. There was 19 albums. How dare you? But in the same way, it's because I love those bands so much. They're part of my culture growing up. This feels very much owned by the fan base. And our forum, which we have on our website, we don't touch it. We very much own it because there's a place to live where Chris Four members can come to. And Kip, who runs it, he has archived every single model, hand, dial, strap, variation, all the bespoke pieces. He was in England for our 20th anniversary recently, and his main thing was to make sure he knew from the bespoke collection what was coming out so we could archive it. And then the people that are on there then become caretakers, and the moderators are very different on there than what you might find back in the day with Time Zone or TZ UK or the Dive Watch Connection. But the love of that brand, it's like, taking care of it for future generations. That's now bled into Chris Ford Enthusiast and the Chris Ford Aficionados on Facebook. They love it for different ways and they converse differently, which is grand. But the fan base are dedicated. What I love is, in the end, if I've got that 14-year-old and I can show them the Pink Floyd album and you can love it for your own reasons, then we move on. And I've done events where it's just been me, and I know it was going to be tough because the amount of people that were coming. And what I've done is I've invited Kip and people who are moderators on the forum or the enthusiast group to come bring a few of their old Christopher Ward watches. And I said this with all the respect in the world, is that if they want to talk about the past, I'd love to, but these events that are 1 or 2 hours, if we've got 100 people there, I know that someone who's brand new wants to see the 12, the Trident, they want to understand what the 12X, why it costs what it does. I want to hear the Bel Canto. Go to Kip and talk about the older variations. Go to the people in the forum because they love it differently than what I do, because I didn't know it. I know what's on this table and I'm going to take it forward. But that is right now the beauty of that community, because hand in hand, there's no passing of the baton. We're just walking together in different ways. And that for me is the power and why we'll grow, because Mike's always been the glue. He's let people be, sorry, my dog flapping his ears. He's always been the glue, but letting the design team, or trusting the design team, or the marketeers, and now me, and with the forum members, we've got a really wonderful community to help grow this brand.
I was going to say, I don't expect for you to remember, 20 years worth of a catalog either. So I'm glad that you're able to recruit Kip to come along and help you out there.
It seemed like the right idea, and it's worked so well. And Kip actually brought 70 pieces to Red Bar Boston, and it was amazing to see them in person. And the hope is that we can do that more and more in our showrooms, and because it shouldn't be archived online only. People should come and experience them, because if you put, say, an old Trident next to what's now, you can see and feel, is it better? Arguably. But what it was designed like and what it cost and how it was put together was reflected of the time and the brand we were then to what we are now. What we're also finding is the bigger we get, and I say that respectively to who we are, we're not a micro brand anymore. We definitely, we were an independent, which has got a little bit of power within it. But the more watches we produce, that's going to help us keep the cost low, because, the more you produce, and that means we can make things better in terms of polishing, edging, the movement that we choose. For example, this watch has got the SW330 as opposed it would have been the 200 before. So what we're doing is making sure that we get better, but pricing stay the same. That is the key for me.
What type of challenges are you guys facing, since you're one of the few direct to consumer brands out there? Like, you're starting to see it more within the micro brand space. because they want to keep the cost of the watch low. Obviously we talked about it. You can't go into a local boutique and see a Christopher Ward because you guys are direct to consumer.
Yeah.
So, and I know you're a big marketing guy. Like, you're all about marketing the brand and plastering it everywhere. That's just your style. But I mean, there's got to be challenges with that. Like, I know you guys are doing like the rugby stuff, like in Everton, but I mean, honestly, I'm sure you've probably had challenges marketing the brand, right?
Yeah, no, there's definitely, because there's only a certain amount of money to keep us marketing the way that we do, which is why, like, for example, I went to an event. I did an event in New York last week, and New York's a different level of price of what I would have done for an event in Raleigh, North Carolina. But those people still spend that same real money, right? So what you find there is what is that return on investment for what my time is, the flight, the plan, around the drinks or the venue and the food. But when it comes to advertising with Everton, that's got to be more long-term goal. The rugby, a long-term goal. Rugby is very much a world sport. Might not be huge here, but we have customer bases all over Australia, New Zealand, especially obviously in the United Kingdom. But that also aligns with us being a bit different. We time the league there in the English Premiership, which is great, and there's a lot of eyeballs, but it's not as glitzy and glamorous or as global as what, say, the Premier League is. So when you think about Everton, Mike France is an Everton fan. There is a new stadium that's being built, but that Everton are one of the founders of the league. They're one of the old boys of the football world. They're known as the People's Club. They're very much a community-based thing. And so when we work with them, yes, it's great to see 5 or 6 minutes of the 12 around the outer boarding with our logo. But unless sometimes like, what was that? What is that? But it's more the activation in that side of things, whereas we can have contact with the coach, the players. We can do events in and around Liverpool, but also we've got conversations of having some of the players over here or the retired players over here, because football is very much a working person's sport. It's a working man's sport in England. But in America, it's still a really, really exciting thing to do in the morning, and kids are involved, and you could be a very successful business person or just a sports person, and you're noticing the behemoth that is the Premier League. And we have that one club that we talk about. If we started to do, which other brands might do, which is spread over all of football, that would be very hard for a brand of our size. So we have to target and utilize that relationship to the max. The thing that's exciting for us is that you can tell, yes, I'm a marketeer, but I think we're all storytellers. We work with Team Brit. Team Brit is a racing team that's for disabled or people who have lost limbs in either through how they were born or they've lost them through military action. And they retrofit these cars to race in able-bodied races. And we are the timing partner and one of the main sponsors of that particular race. They're very much British-based, but we want that team to come to the to the US. So those types of stories can be told hand in hand. And finally, it's Blue Marine, which is a foundation that tries to stop overfishing. So that would be, there's something coming out this year which kind of tells that story in a different way, which is great. And we do watches already right now, which have got tied straps made of recycled materials. We know that this is going to be a certain section, but all encompassing, it shows the true spirit of the brand. We love sport, we love community. We want to do things that are different, and also we believe in the world. Let's look after it. So if we can, in our micro way, do that in the marketing, do it socially, do it now in events, and then probably wrap it all up within our own magazine, which is called Loop, which is free to anybody who wants to sign up, then it becomes powerful. The challenges are, there's only a certain amount of money, Blake, so we want to make sure that we spend it correctly. But that's the only challenge. And we do have missteps, but we learn from them, right?
Totally.
That's right. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm subscribed to the Loop magazines too, and they're always a fun read. They're great quality. I always love the covers. Just they're so nice, man. Everybody, please, they're free. Mike would recommend them. Get on the Loop.
Every 3 months, we send out this magazine globally for free, and that's a free sign of. And it's not just Christopher Ward spiel; it's also a bit of sport, travel, movies. Sometimes there's bits and bobs. We've got a great writer called Tony who. He's got a great way about him of telling these stories.
Yeah, Tony's doing an awesome job. Tell him we said that.
Thank you.
Just kind of off the wall, How do you see the watch industry evolving? And where does Christopher Ward fit into that future?
Ooh, Justin. We are in a post-COVID world where we know how to buy our groceries online. And I think with Christopher Ward, the more and more we're trusted, I think we'll just continue to grow. I think we will look to more partners. We did a really wonderful watch recently with Andrew Morgan, which was, brilliant to be able to kind of reward all of the work that he'd done with Watchfinder, but also his expertise and understanding the bel canto, and say, right, let's do something for you and your people that have followed you for all those years. That's really powerful. So I would love to see more of that, but organically, not just about throwing a name out there. So Christopher Ward, we've got financial goals. We've got goals that we want to really, really hit. For me personally, I want, and I don't know if you know this, we're opening up our first US showroom in Dallas in September. That showroom is not the head office. That's just the first office. That's how I've kind of positioned it, because that office will be small. It won't be next to any Lululemons or traditional watch stores. This is going to be off the beaten path. And if you come and see us, you have to make an appointment. You get an hour. We are still keeping with, this is for right now, we are going to ship it to you. But we've got a few different incentives of why come to the showroom, which we're working on right now. But more than anything, you get that hour to play with Christopher Ward, and you get to discover the watches that you love. So that's very exciting. And then what I want is to start where I am right now in Texas and grow from the inside out and be at a place where we can be deserved of New York or LA. But we're not there yet. We want to do it gradually, because that type of commitment to money and team and time is crazy. The watch industry overall, I like it. I think that we've had a big weirdness after COVID, where there were so many watches that had to be released because they were being built and everything was flooded. But that also created a ton of excitement within the industry at a time where the world was not really excited about buying things. There's a lot of conservatism coming out from that now, which I think is smart. But watches are going nowhere. I think retail is still a place that matters, but you go hand in hand with digital as well. So the smart players will work harder. They'll work differently. And I like that. But for me, and especially in this American market, it's about getting together with people. We went through a few years of absolute awfulness, and I love that we can share a glass of champagne or a bottle of bubbly or maybe a nice whiskey with you, Blake. We can do that a few times. But I do believe that there's a lot of choice out there. So I'm not worried about it. I think it's exciting. I think prices have to be a little bit more, they have to be looked at, because it can get a bit silly at times. And that's disappointing, but understandable with the way the world is. But so it's very hard to come down once you've gone up. So that's got to be done gradually. But we all still love watches. Not about the bling of it all, just the stories and hopefully the craftsmanship. But I still love them. And like I told you, I didn't for a bit. So it's nice to feel like I do now. So
welcome back.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm sure you have your own milestones that you hope to accomplish within the next 5-10 years at the brand. Curious if you're willing to share some of those with us, like what you hope to achieve during your tenure. And
I think you're more than welcome to ask that. And for me, the first one will be that showroom. That will be massive for me. We've, to tell you, we've already employed the first manager, which is I'm excited about. That kind of personality is in line with my kind of mindset and Mike's kind of mindset. But when I had Mike and Peter over to Dallas, they know America brilliantly through their business time with Christopher Ward and way before. But for them to see the growth that's happening in states like Texas, which is mirrored in places like the Carolinas, parts of Georgia, out there in Nevada where you are, you think about Arizona, how that's grown as well. This is incredible. And Christopher Ward is 51% of its business is here in North America, in the US. So just imagine what we can do. What I would really hope personally is that we can grow as a team globally from the efforts we do here in America. And that is genuine. If we can have that one person that's going to join me here in Dallas, and that will end up being 2 that will be in Dallas, and then we recreate that 5 or 6 times in different showrooms around the country. But that also means that more watchmakers have to be employed in Switzerland, more marketeers and PR people back in the UK, and repairers in the UK. Because of what we do here, I felt that with Bremont, but to know the scale and the scope and the the potential, I'm very excited for that, because we grow a community and we we grow a family. And I also, and this is probably a personal thing, and I spoke to Mike about this as well, is my job is North America, and it should be because of how big this country is. But I get messages from Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, the Middle East every day or every other day. That for me is brilliant. If we can then, if I can then see, not have to do it, but see it happen and go, that was awesome. That means a lot to me. But I just want natural growth, organic growth, with the eventual hope that the brand remains Christopher Ward. Well, we're not micro brand, but we're adjacent to it. We're going to get bigger, but we still feel attainable and close to the community. Those things are so important.
Quick question for you, and I'll let you talk, Blake. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Are you the only one that at least within the USA, that is doing your job, or is your team growing, or how does that work?
No, it's just me, and I did this for 5-6 years on my own with Bremont as well. So I've always been told, pace yourself, but I've got a stupid amount of energy, and I know what I can and shouldn't do. The only thing I'm mindful of is family. I'm very proud dad, and if you follow me, you see my kids and my wife. I love them. But I couldn't do that without the support. So I only do what I think is right. But I don't know if there could be someone that my role as a director is, as that title says, you make the brand a different thing with your ideas and your people should be with you there. And I said this to the guys joining us. Titles aside, we'll be working side by side. And I really believe that. So when that one person comes in, that'll be someone that will be with us hopefully for years and years, not just for the store, but to help us grow the showrooms. But it is just me just now. But I will say, if I couldn't do the wind-ups, if I didn't have Olivia or Anna who look after events and PR, I couldn't tell the story without Kate rocking and rolling the marketing budget and helping me with those spreadsheets, which I'm terrible at. And obviously nothing matters unless you've got someone like Mike and Peter giving you the reins, say, have at it, man. And it's really special.
And you talked about like getting emails from like, overseas territories. Is that something that you guys are trying to focus on? I know you're trying to grow the brand internationally, but is there like a Mike Pearson that's doing Asia? Is there a Mike Pearson that's doing the Middle East, or like,
not yet?
What are your objectives abroad? Like,
well, that's going to be, we'll get Mike on for you that one. But what I'll find for, this is the example of America with 20 years in business. And it's only the last 8 months that they've had me here, right? They haven't really needed it to the point where you got to think the amount of watches we produce, we're at capacity. And so that's why when we talk about Switzerland, the infrastructure, if we grow that and we bolt onto that, and then we add the rocket boosters, which we love, then we can then have more watches and then turn to mainland Europe. We have a really healthy business in mainland Europe, but you'll know that if we have a dialogue and we strike a chord with, say, Germany, the French, they jump on board, Austria, then that goes into Benelux and all that different type of area. If you get France right, then the romantic side of design with Italy and Spain, that starts to kick into gear. They're different. I mean, there are more people in Italy than there are in the UK. And there are more people in Germany and France than there are in the UK. So they're huge countries. So we haven't even turned that on yet. They just are aware of us and we're getting talked about. Australia seems a million miles away because it is, but they speak the same language. Hong Kong is a Chinese, obviously, speaking country, or Mandarin speaking country, but they very much have a lot of Anglophiles or expats because of our past there. Same with the Middle East. So we have pockets of success where when we have the capacity to do so, we can turn it up. And it might not need someone like myself to be there. It just might need us as a team to show a bit of trust, do an event, do a bit of marketing. But right now we can control what we control, because design is in England into Switzerland. Everything's made in Switzerland. Everything is finally quality controlled in Switzerland, boxed up, shipped to the UK. In some cases, we calibrate the watches there, but every single bracelet, strap, and buckle is done there and packaged. So we control everything, which means that the taxes and duties are all controlled by a brilliant team, which, it can get busy. Any problems, let us know. That's just part of life. But right now, the narrative is clean and clear. If we did go into China, mainland, I'm talking, we got to be ready for it, because that's a different level. And so I think we're smart enough to know that what we've got right now and how we talk and where we talk loudly, we're in good shape. But the ambition is big. The ambition is there, Blake, for sure.
Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah, it's completely different markets. And yeah, you've always got to be prepared, but I'm sure that you guys are going to do your best. And I know you'll be successful at whatever you do.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'll switch gears again, Mike. I'm curious. I'm always curious. I know that you've got a selection that you wear around of the brand.
Yes.
What is your personal favorite Christopher Ward watch, and why is that?
All right, I've got the two that I wear all the time. I'm wearing the new Pro 300, so that's just because it's shiny and new and it's awesome.
Let me give you a closer look at that.
It's not too bad over that.
That's beautiful.
The Trident Pro 300 in bronze at 42 millimeters was the first watch I fell in love with. I just think it's great, and I've been wearing that in Texas as a warm Englishman for all these 8 months. So the patina is legit right now. Like it feels like a whole. So that's kind of like my journey with Christopher Ward is on my wrist, and I wear my 40 millimeters with that blue dial in titanium all the time. I love that because I think I came to the brand just after that was launched, and I think that the reason why I'm here is because of Belcanto and that, because it showed a different level of who we are. If I was going to say, and this sounds a bit salesy, but when I started with the brand, I talked to everybody from Mike all the way through the team. I said, what do you think is Christopher Ward? And they just lived through Belcanto. So a lot of them said that. And in many ways, I think the next evolution or growth of Christopher Ward is because of it. So go with that. I still think Trident Sealander is our bread and butter. That's our Speedy. That's our Seamaster. That's where you've got us with a $1,000 to $1,300 price point. And that's everything that's good about Christopher Ward. So I'm a core guy. I believe in a watch that's attainable and affordable for everybody. I did wear the 12X the other day for the first time. And that's one that's kind of, I don't know that. I mean, I've got watches, which sounds silly, but I've got watches that are way more expensive than the 12X, but that's because it's Christopher Ward pricing, right? I don't know if I've got a watch that's that exciting for $4,800 that I had on my wrist, because 5 days of power, that finishing was unlike anything I'd worn before. So that movement, that SH21 movement, that is special to me. So the more and more I'm close to that, the more and more that kind of gets me.
Dude, when I was at because you were at Red Bar Raleigh, I had met you there. That's where I'm based out of, is Raleigh, North Carolina. And I remember when I was standing there and you were like, hey, here you go. You want to be the first one to try it? And I was like, oh my God. And like you literally looked at me and you said, you were like, what do you think? And I was like, it's beautiful. Like I was speechless because I was like, what the hell do I say? It was such a nice watch. Yeah. And it's so intriguing to look at, with like the skeletonized and everything. But yeah, I was just standing there looking like, wow, man, like this is really like a work of art, for it to have the power reserve and everything, the price point. Once again, I was just like, man, that's got to be one of my favorites out of the whole catalog. You guys,
great. You should have seen the amount of people that have brought along Zenith Defies to my events, though, to put side by side with that, which I've loved. I think that's a massive compliment to it. But what it did show me is when we launched that was the first big launch that we'd had when I joined. It was very interesting to see the online thoughts of the brand. And this is post Belcanto, obviously. So these people seeing that watch at that price, they never knew, the majority of them didn't know we had SH21 for 10 years. They didn't know that we'd had watches that were close to that price in the past, such as the C60 concept. And so when people look at it, they might not know that the design is not to be copying anybody. It is, as you said, art. It is architecture. You look through the finishing of those bridges and the springs. That is a very different level of finishing. But then you saw online people say, "Oh, I could get a Zenith for half price," and you hold back from typing, "But why is it half price?" Because I love that brand and I love the El Primero story. But it's not about trying to copy. It's that movement to celebrate 10 years of owning it inside of the collection, the 12, that's been our best-selling core model for years and years and years. But it's been interesting to when people like yourself hold it, go, oh, all right, it's legit. That's very satisfying.
You understand.
Yeah, and that's again goes back to why I'm doing the events, because you can only get so much from your phone or a computer screen. You've really got to hold it sometimes.
Definitely.
Did you guys have to rework the movement to make it open worked, or
No, the C60 concept before was open, and you can see through. If you ever hold that model, it's big, it is thick. The beauty of what they did here is they took away parts to see through better. They brushed and beveled and finished each bridge and each part of the movement differently, and they also DLC'd and they colored certain parts of it to give it a bit more depth. So that was reworked in a big way, but it still did the job that it's done for basically 10 years, 5 days double barrel power reserve that we own. And the thing that I think you saw with that 12X was that it wasn't just something that was a movement you throw in a case. This is purposely built to be part of our heritage. Case in point was there was box crystal top and bottom to make it feel thinner, to be more in line with the 12, so it didn't feel like a hockey puck like it did before. And that was the magic of the design, going back to Will, who's a genius for what he did there.
Yeah, that was one that truly impressed me when I got hands-on with it at Wind Up. You guys were showcasing it, I think, for the first time at Wind Up in San Francisco.
Yep, that was a big one, and we had little posters there from Will as well. So.
And every time I went back, because I took pictures of it, and then I was like, oh, I messed up the pictures, because I was working with a new camera for the first time. And anyways, I went back, and then I went back like 4 or 5 times. Like, oh, this here is there is gone. Like, you had so many people that were just trying to get hands on with it for different press outlets, and
but it's still been like that to this day. I mean, I was, like I said, in New York, and that was still. I mean, the bel canto is the star of the show if people want to hear it and see it. I mean, a lot of people miss the songbird on the bottom of the design because the sound is the show. So the more and more you look into the watch, the better. But that 12X being $4,800, it's still a higher price point for Christopher Ward, but it's still a watch which is, in many people's brands, it would be 2-3 times that, which is not saying that in a egotistical way. It's just the finishing is so high quality. But there is still going to be that, but you're the $1,000 brand. Why should I spend $4,800? And if you can afford it and they see it, it's amazing how many people have loved it. What's beautiful about that model as well is that it's not limited edition. It's been a limited quantity. So we're about to cut that off, which means whatever we build is what we build. And but that's great because we gave the ability for that to be for as many people as possible. And then that movement goes into the next watch, which is exciting. So
I like how you guys you didn't over plaster. Like you guys are clearly proud of this watch, right? Oh, yeah. But from the dial, you wouldn't be able to. There's no dial, right? You wouldn't you could have printed Christopher Ward on the sapphire or done anything like that. But you guys are just like, hey, here it is, take it as it is.
Well, there's a big old Christopher Ward logo on the tungsten rotor, which you cannot miss for sure. So we definitely put it.
Oh yeah, that's true. But you're not going to see that from
no.
On wrist, people who are wearing the 12X would be like, what the, if they don't know what they're looking at, what's that?
I equated that to the guys who ride their motorbikes, and you're just riding, you just give the nod, it's that kind of cool thing. And we've done that with the Aventurine moon phase. We've done it with obviously the bel canto, and now with the 12X. So I think that's a testament to the watch. I mean, even the last SH21, we put the logo very small, but it had loom on it just to show that. But I think that's a little bit of. We're very proud of the fact that we can show the watch. It's not about us; it's about the watch itself. That's a cool place to be.
I love that.
It's impressive that you guys can design a watch and still have, your design language and DNA in that watch, and you don't even have to show a logo. And people are like, "Oh, that's a Christopher Ward. That's pretty cool."
Imagine saying that a few years ago. I mean, it's such an exciting time. So
yeah. Hey, back to it, man. All that work on the logo for nothing, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Hey, did its job for a minute. Yeah. I did buy. We do little staff sales every now. I bought a watch, 39mm GMT with the last text logo. So I do think we're going to find them being part of, folklore or part of the collector community. Oh, you got that iteration of the logo.
Folklore.
You know what I mean? We're 20-year-old brand with folklore, but sorry, I just finished watching Game of Thrones, so I'm still in that kind of way of speaking.
The Watch Bible.
I'll bring my loot out with you for you. No, but it's grand. No, the logo's not having it special for sure.
Yeah, it's an amazing watch, and I'm impressed for sure. And I have a Defy. I own a Defy.
I think that I was working in a retail store when that came out, and to that kind of reaction of people coming to see what's on the inside, I had that same reaction. But obviously, wind up, you've got thousands of people in front of you, but you can feel the energy. People love to see what's on the inside of it. But you shouldn't. We shouldn't compare. Be so quick to compare because we do things differently in each room. We all have two eyes and a nose. But we're not all the same. And I think that's the same with the watches. Hold it, feel it, turn that crown, feel the weight of it. That's when you get the power of it. So,
yeah. Well, we have reached the top of our hour here.
Oh yeah, that was quick.
I know. It's just like we're flies when you're having fun. Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for getting me back on with this new T-shirt on.
yeah, of course. Like it. I know. I was thinking about it because we're coming. Like we have 3 or 4 podcasts that are scheduled ahead of you.
Yeah.
And I was like, who else do we need to get back, or who else can we reach out to? And I'm like, sorry, Mike, you're the low hanging fruit.
I'll take it, man. That's what my wife says as well.
So I'm like, all right, some of the outreach, it takes effort, right? Like, I'm going back and forth with emails and this and that and trying to get to the right gatekeeper and get all these people on. And then I'm like,
Mike, come on.
Give me a DM, yeah. If you put a smoke signal in the sky, I will come and have a chat with you. So
yeah, hey, put the bat
the
signal
Mike
up,
signal,
the Christopher Ward, yeah.
I'm at my worst when I'm not traveling because I'm sitting there, because I've got all of the ideas of on the road just kind of go boom into emails and conversations. But it's nice that you reached out. It was a perfect timing just to kind of get my chatter going. So
yeah, we talked about it yesterday, and here we are today. It was that awesome. Yeah, we touched on a lot. Is there anything that you feel like, turning our platform over to you, is there anything you feel like we didn't talk about that's important to the brand? If so,
I can't thank you enough for getting us on. We really appreciate it. Any of your listeners who've got questions, and if you any customer service conversations or any kind of preconceived ideas, this is a big thing I've kind of felt is that 20 years is a long time, but if you read something from a guy or a girl who had a genuine grievance, don't take that as something that we are today. We are always learning, always growing. We own what wasn't right, but we are always growing and educating ourselves to be better as well. But if there's a question or a problem, good or bad, just give us a shout, be it myself personally, or if you email the customer service email, it does go to a person. We have thousands of emails that come in. So sometimes it can feel a bit automated, but there is a person genuinely there to help you. And if you do need that personal touch, just give us a shout at the team. We're all here for you. That's probably the biggest thing I want people to understand about us is we're only going to get better and we will fall at sometimes, but that's how you learn, right? So that's probably the big thing I'd leave on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
spoken like a true poet.
Thanks.
Christopher Ward is one of the brands that when I first started collecting, it stood out, right? Just, there's not a lot of transparency in the watch industry. There's people going around saying this in-house, that in-house, whatever. They're using a complex supply chain and all that. And that's all fine and dandy and nobody really cares. But, there's something that was warm and transparent and exciting about Christopher Ward. And you guys are in a very unique place that you guys can capture somebody who's buying their first watch or also buying their last watch. There's very few brands out there that have that power. And arguably, in my opinion, Christopher Ward is one of those brands.
Well, thanks for seeing that in us. I completely, I feel that way as well. That's why I'm sitting here right now. So thanks for seeing it. And thanks for all the support here and before. And of
course,
can't thank you enough. And congratulations on the pod. It's been brilliant to listen to all these years.
Thank you. We're going to keep going. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to leave all the links in the description for Christopher Ward. Go out and buy your 12 bell canto or whatever from Christopher
12
Ward.
bell canto. Just designed a brand new watch. Let's go.
12 bell canto, I should have said.
I think we should do it. Let's build it.
Yeah, there you go. Just the 12 case with the bell canto movement.
Exactly.
Boom.
Lonely Wrist collab.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're grateful to have you on, and thanks for spending time with us as always. And we'll maybe in a few years we'll have you on again with Christopher Ward.
Yeah, I'm going nowhere now. I'm fine for a bit. Thank you.
Okay. That'd be a first again, right? The third time we have you on the podcast.
Oh, don't. I'm fine. I'm happy. So we're
Okay.
It's almost like we're friends with this guy or something. Like, good for
you
you.
guys, yeah, definitely. Well, be safe and thanks for everyone for listening.
Thank
You too, Mike.
Thank you
Cheers,
so
buddy.
much.